Hello, I'm Bryan Wroten, senior reporter with Hotel News Now, and I am joined by news editor Sean McCracken and editorial director Stephanie Ricca, and we thought we'd do something kind of fun today. 5 years ago, H&N put out a special report with predictions for what the hotel industry would be like in 2025, and we even put out a video back in January of 2020 with each person giving their prediction for what we thought would happen. And then a few months later, as you all probably remember, we had the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we thought it would be fun to go back through that video and take a look at the predictions that we came up with and just see how close we got with those. So guys, let's get started. The first one here is that the hotel industry would move closer to the alternative accommodation sector. Hotels would want to get into more further into the local experiences, unique experiences, and the different types of accommodations. We've heard all about glamping, tree houses, things like that. So what do you guys think? Was that one pretty close to the mark?
Ding, ding, ding. Yes.
Yeah, that's
bingo.
That's a winner. Although I will say, even in 2020, that wasn't a home run swing on that. Somebody was gunning for a single.
Hey man, you get on base, you get on base.
That's it.
When we think about this opening of the time capsule, in any normal course of a 5-year span, it would be fun and interesting to do. But just knowing that backdrop of the pandemic hitting so soon, so close to when we did this, it makes it even more interesting to see when we hit the mark.
And I do think that obviously when we talk about 2020 now, obviously the backdrop is the pandemic, and we didn't have that context. But it actually was the pandemic that helped spur that growth in that space, because we saw so many people look for different types of travel and different types of destinations, and is literally why in that space.
And it took 4 years for the big players to make meaningful moves in that space, right? It was only last year, 2024, that we saw Hilton bought AutoCamp, Marriott partnered with the 2 outdoor lodging companies, Postcard Cabins and Trailborn. 4 years from that first big push before you could see that sort of meaningful big brand investment in this space. So that had staying power.
Yeah, I guess the question then is, would they have moved faster had it not been for the pandemic? Or would it still have taken that long?
I mean, like I just said, I think it's the opposite. I think it would have been a slower go if it were not for the pandemic, proving that there was a real demand base for that type of travel.
Because those companies alone, like AutoCamp and Postcard, kind of sprung up.
They're not just because of the pandemic,
during them, but
all
they
of a sudden,
grew. Their value grew.
That sort of more
pandemic.
isolated travel all of a sudden became a lot more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So yes, that was a win.
We'll put that one in the win column. Let's move on.
That's a B-.
I mean, a win's a win.
A win's a win.
A passing grade is still a passing grade, yeah.
So next one was personalization and travelers getting what they want out of their stay. So, checking in, checking out when they want to, eating when they want to, not just when the restaurants are open, paying when and how they want to pay, on-demand housekeeping, things like that. So what do you guys think in terms of this further movement toward personalization?
I think that's there's some people in the industry who would like us to say that has been realized, and I think that what has been realized in that space is more talk about it and less reality.
Yes, and I will fully admit this was the trend that I chose back in January 2020 to say would be the big one now, 5 years later in 2025. And I think there are, there's movement toward it. There's elements of it. Of course, hotels are moving toward wanting to monetize that, things like early check-in and late checkout. But Sean, you're right. And I wrote a blog about this just a couple weeks ago. The idea of personalization, a lot of hotel companies like to talk about it, but is it really happening in a way that moves the needle for a guest? Not yet.
Well, I guess the flip side of that is obviously we've seen a lot of growth in the ultra luxury space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you win with this strategy,
Yes.
right? Like when somebody is paying you $10,000 a night to stay in your ultra luxury property, that better be pretty
They better
personalized.
have my drink of choice on tap. Right.
The odd part with that, though, is I think we had a significant period we were moving actually in the wrong direction with that in terms of personalization of amenities and housekeeping and that sort of thing. Because coming out of the pandemic, guests were paying more and getting less of what they wanted. So if anything, the average hotel moved in the wrong direction for a while with this, but the highest of high end has lived up to this promise.
Definitely still a conversation 5 years
for
later.
sure.
It's not a problem that was solved, not that it was a problem to begin with, but it's absolutely still a conversation now.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to be a conversation until they either fully nail it or give up on such a high target.
Well, and
there's no point where it's never going to be solved for. It's the business of hospitality, right? Like in the essence of what this conversation we're having is, can you improve the hospitality part of hospitality? And of course the answer is yes, but that's never going to be done.
And there's parts of personalization that aren't necessarily on property, like what you would think of, oh, please have my pillow ready. There's more options to book and more interfaces with a hotel brand via their app that might give you some levels of personalization that are important and that we didn't have 5 years ago. So yes, I wouldn't call it a dud.
It's not a dud
of a
an
prediction.
idea, but to say that it would have moved forward significantly, I say, is where this one might be a miss.
Yes, agree.
So next up, AI, not just the implementing AI in hotels, but that the AI would be able to recognize a guest before any human on staff does, being able to have a booking match you with whatever hotel best fits you, and further personalization in room and on property, and even having a director of AI for in-house expertise. I'm gonna say that's probably a swing and a miss, just in terms of how ambitious that one was.
The booking part,
Directionally is
though.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that booking part, we talk to a lot of brands who invest a lot into their brand.com booking platforms. That part is growing,
Yes.
especially when they're suggesting when you're in destinations and partnering with, other wayfinding map stuff online and
And there are
knowing your
players
past
in this
behavior.
space, like third-party players,
Yes.
like the Expedias of the world, that have tried to
Yes.
incorporate some AI trip planning. So that's not crazy. I think maybe it trickling down to the property level, we're still pretty far away from that.
But it is scary within the last few years, just seeing how far AI in general has come, just in terms of the direct interface with the general public. Just,
Right.
That's true.
Just like I did not see any of that
But
coming.
The interesting part of this prediction too is there's kind of a biometric piece to it, and there was some early discussion of like, well, can you walk into a hotel and have these biometric systems automatically know who you are, so you can bypass the entire check-in process? And that technology exists. It just doesn't exist in the hotel industry, right? Like we see it at airports, you
Yes,
see
we
it at
do.
TSA,
In airports, right.
but I think this is going to be another one of those things where people see it in the travel experience, and they see airlines and air travel be so far ahead on it, and will be wondering for quite some time, like, why are hotels so far behind?
And
on
what
this?
can they use it for?
Yeah.
What will those best use case scenarios be?
So next up, the
Wait, what do we think about this one? Like,
I would say, as far it was very ambitious, didn't quite hit it as far as, but definitely moving in that direction, and we're seeing the use of some of that outside of hotels.
Right.
And it's
I think
matter of time.
I think it's obviously they're not. It's who someone making this prediction is not wrong to think that this is the direction we're moving in. If this is a prediction for what the hotel industry would be like in the year 2025, it is clearly not it.
where is my flying car?
Yeah.
Right? Everyone needs a jetpack. So next up, the escalation of experiences and guest experience on property,
yes.
specifically calling out the Galactic Star Cruiser at Disney.
Wow.
Well, I guess we
Can of worms.
Yeah.
at the time.
But at the same time, also a Hogwarts hotel as a guest experience,
Okay.
something that's
So we're talking
More
about heavily programmed experience.
Very immersive.
Experiences, right? And what those could bring in terms of pricing power and profitability, which experience has been the word for the last 5 years.
But not in the type of amusement park style experience I think we might be referencing
Right.
in this.
Yeah.
Right. This is the high touch, high
Yes.
end. And where this dovetails, though, and how it played out, I think, is in that extreme growth in demand and differentiation for luxury travel
Yeah.
coming out of the pandemic.
But that's to this point is to bring an idea like that to scale, like what Disney was trying to accomplish
Right.
there is
It's
it is
tough.
very high touch. It requires such a level of attention to each guest that it demands such a high price. And you really have to thread that needle of the actual physical property has to be impressive, because I think that was part of people's complaints there, that they felt like they were kind of hemmed into these little cabins. It wasn't the exact
Right.
experience you'd want. But yeah, once again, if somebody's paying you $10,000 a night, you can pull off any number of things. But it's so hard to get that idea of experience to a critical mass, wide scale model that works.
Because I mean, my family, we took a vacation to Disney a few years ago, and just walking through the Star Wars portion of it, my kids absolutely loved it. Loved the interaction with the actors they had there playing the different Star Wars characters, and just genuine interaction. They are very good at that, but that's them just walking through a crowd, having a couple minute long interaction with a few people, and then moving along. So you got to worry about the burnout that would come from something like that. That's a lot of dedication. That's a lot of effort to ask of someone day in and day out.
Right. So you wonder what those conversations are at companies like Disney about experience, and then layering over, well, what is our best proposition for profitability and experience, knowing that operating a building like that, a hotel like that, is probably too intensive in terms of material and cost and all of it, whereas the better trade-off is let's have characters walk through the park.
Exactly.
Still hitting the experience button, but
That's the difference. Is I think that maybe since that specific experience or experiment, maybe more people in the hotel industry realize, obviously experience is the driver for demand, but are we creating that experience from whole cloth? Because that's a huge endeavor. Or are we are we connecting people to the experience?
Sean, that's very true, because we could all agree that has grown in popularity among hotels in the last 3 years when this experience word really took off. It's not, we will now build on to our hotel a giant whatever. We will partner with locals
Exactly.
who will bring in, you can do this kayaking trip or this picnic or this,
Even at
other local
all-inclusives,
experience.
right?
That's it.
Like instead of offering the excursion themselves, they'll connect you with people who do it there.
Exactly. It's like asset light.
Exactly.
Asset light experience.
So what do you guys think for this one?
I mean, I guess for the specific type of experience, more of the galactic cruiser stuff, that's a big no. I think the idea of experience broadly is more important than it ever has been.
That's the foundation, for sure.
Next up, the impact that tech companies will have really won't be much of a discussion anymore because the biggest, most powerful, most important travel company will be Google and probably won't be close.
That's what we said in 2020, right?
I will take credit. This is what I said in 2020. And as critical I've been as other people's predictions, this is not a passing grade.
Unpack it for us, Sean.
Yeah, so I think that at least the first part of my contention was correct. Like, because there was such a huge conversation about what role big tech would play in travel back when we made these predictions in 2020. And when I said that wouldn't be as much of a conversation, I was right about that, but it's because things moved in the opposite direction. I mean, Google was creeping more and more into the distribution space, and they've kind of stopped their further excursions into that. Amazon was playing at this idea of building out a travel marketplace for a long time, and have seemingly threw their hands up and said it's just too much of a hassle. And I think that's what I got wrong on this whole thing. And I remember I went back and watched it before we had this conversation. I made a point about the thing that was holding back a company like Google kind of grabbing the entire marketing funnel and taking over the entire booking journey, which I still 100% believe if they were motivated to do, they very much could do it. Sure. But the thing that was holding them back is they have all these intermediary relationships with the companies that exist in that space, the bookings and the Expedias, and there's a huge amount of money that flows both ways in those relationships.
They'd have to unravel a lot or purchase
I underestimated how much a company like Google has value sitting in that space and just being, like we were saying about experience, they're enabling this journey. They don't have to own the journey. They don't have to create the journey. They don't have to drive demand to hotels, but they can be there when demand is finding the hotel that it wants, and then they still get a piece of that pie. So I think a lot of these tech companies have found other things to put their time and energy into. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I think we've seen this in a lot of kind of tech players that have dabbled in travel, is that they get into it thinking that it's a space ripe for disruption and that there's some sort of gold mine there, and they get in and they realize that this industry is a lot more mature than a lot of the spaces that they've tried and kind of disrupt in the past, and it's really not worth the headache of rewriting the rules of the hotel industry.
When I remember talking about this in 2020 and 2019, and I was at an event at Michigan State University in their hospitality school. They would bring together a group of alums and hoteliers every year, and the conversation that year was Amazon in the travel space, which you mentioned, and the imagery, the example that stuck with me at the time was, well, Amazon can see if you, Brian, are buying skis and a ski jacket and mittens, and they will then market you, hey, how about this ski vacation? And I thought that was just a really descriptive example of thinking how this would work. But then in hindsight, you look and you realize it does not make sense for them to do that. It makes sense for them to sell your purchasing data to another company who can come in and do it. So asset light.
It's easier for them to be the middleman, for sure. So that's a no. That's a F minus.
Not an F minus.
You put effort into it, so you get more than an F minus.
When we think of these things through the context of the pandemic, since that's what we didn't know about back then, I do wonder, since there was a push back then for all these tech companies to say, I want a piece of the travel industry, and then they saw the travel industry hit, 12 floors below rock bottom, and they thought, maybe this isn't worth our time.
Interesting. Interesting.
All right, well, we got to keep moving here. So next up is guest loyalty being different, combining programs, new partnerships, loyalty program through Airbnb. and just a way to disrupt hotel loyalty programs. So
Well, I don't think Airbnb still doesn't have a traditional loyalty program. Every time I've heard them talk about the possibility of it, I believe that the takeaway there is that experience is their loyalty. So if they can deliver a better guest experience, if people can do it, like we were saying before, if they enable people to do these things, they don't need a points-based program. I believe that that's their general MO, so that's still the case. I don't feel like there's been a lot of shifts in loyalty other than there's just more priority on it, right? And
Well, tiering, I think.
more
You
tiers,
upper tier, going for that upper tier, and you see that happening in airlines, right?
well, the airline loyalty thing is a whole different conversation.
It is, but it underscores where companies are prioritizing their loyalty members. And we all noticed too, speaking of pandemic, we got to hang on to our loyalty for the first year, and then it was, okay, here's our opportunity to change it, and it's going to be tougher. In many cases, there was pushback in these intervening years. But when I see just promos, not promos I get because I am not that super elite tier, but whoa, talk about experiences. Those brand companies want the elite.
Yeah.
they really expanded what you can do with your loyalty programs, particularly what you can do with the points you've earned. Because during the pandemic, when travel was down, well, if you still want to use your points, well, you can use it for any of these partners that we now have.
Right.
So it's, ways for people to burn those points and then continue to earn them back.
And I think we've talked about this before. Yeah. I think the big shift in loyalty is that every hotel company's loyalty brand is their flagship brand now. That's the way the industry is set up. And we talk about you have Marriott and Hilton and Hyatt, but it's Bonvoy and Hilton Honors and World of Hyatt are really the consumer-facing brands more than anything anymore.
And we haven't seen any major shakeup in loyalty. There's still, loyalty programs are consolidated within brands, but it makes me wonder what sort of thing that might be, if it's needed, what it would look like. I don't know.
So, yay, nay?
I think that's I would say that's a yes. I mean, obviously.
They're evolving themselves all the time.
Everything other than the Airbnb piece of it.
Sure. All right. So then we have F&B continuing to change, moving toward more social spaces, incorporating F&B into the lobbies, more experimentation with ghost kitchens, and the exit of room service.
Well, it's 2020, yes on ghost kitchens and no on social spaces.
So this is the one that the pandemic really had the biggest impact
Huge
on.
impact. Yeah, even just temporarily shifting things around.
Right. So when the prediction was worded as F&B will continue to change,
I mean,
absolutely. And
that's kind of a cheat, though, right?
Right, it is. But I want to ask you guys then, 5 years down the road, what are the big changes?
I mean, I've heard from more hotel executives in interviews in the past couple of years just a greater emphasis on F&B as a way of actually driving business. Not necessarily just from hotel guests, but having the bar or the restaurant where the locals go to, where it's actually cool to go to the hotel for drinks because they have a rooftop or this or that. So, and then if a hotel guest asks, so where do people go for dinner, for drinks, they'll give answers like, well, I like this or that, or like a lot of people like to go to, the rooftop
and
because you get
VIP
a view,
access.
things like that. So it's just, I remember when there's a lot of talk about like, I don't know what we want to do with F&B because it's not making us money, and
they couldn't afford that any longer. The pandemic was when the rubber hit the road of we cannot have this huge dining space that's open for a breakfast buffet and a little bit of dinner that nobody purchases.
Well, if you think about how all of our like F&B consuming behaviors changed specifically in 2020, it's that everybody got accustomed to delivery apps. and the convenience of that. And it doesn't matter where you're at, you can use that. You can be at a hotel and you can use those. So the idea that we have all been conditioned as consumers to have this kind of peak convenient option of getting literally anything you want to eat means that hotels on property could no longer lean back on just being the most convenient option.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do F&B, you have to elevate it. You have to make it a place that people want to be, a space that they want it to be. You have to have elevated options, because if we're just going to, we're here and this food can show up at your room
And we need to eat. That's
bad
too
news.
low.
Bad news. Anybody, all of the great restaurants in the cities you're in are doing that. Like competitor now. So the table stakes.
Yes.
I mean, on top of that, we saw buffets go away, and then they came back.
And then they came back, and
Maybe they're served a little bit differently, but they're back.
Not all that differently.
No, not all that differently. Not everyone is being served while you're going through buffet. Grab and go is a bigger part than it used to be. Just real easy, grabbing a sandwich or something like that, and just the convenience of it. And room service, it's still around.
And those are the elements, the non-destination restaurant or non-banquet and catering F&B options like grab and go, like little marketplaces. Those are the elements that I think hotels and brands that have those things need to know that that's the space that's evolving so fast with the competitiveness of Uber Eats and DoorDash and restaurants and coffee bars popping up in the neighborhood. Today grab and go might be great, but in another year you're really going to have to evolve that because there's other F&B players.
So guys, what are your thoughts on the prediction? Yes, no, kind of?
F&B will continue to change. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that was a broad brush we were painting with, but I would say yes.
Yeah. And so, all right, last up, we're going to head overseas.
Okay.
Branding is going to continue to increase across Europe, and a bigger emphasis on franchising in Western Europe. Central and Eastern are going to get more management agreements as unsophisticated investors come into the hotel space. So, we're definitely seeing it, and I know just from companies I've covered, like they see opportunities to grow third-party management in Europe, especially.
Yeah, I know we're not in the habit of calling out individuals on these, but this one was obviously our European colleague Terry's prediction, and I will say he was dialed in on this one. I
Absolutely.
think that this is the only one that of all of these predictions, I would say that you listen to it and you say, well, but this one, I feel like
Nailed it.
Check every single box. That is the direction that the industry is moving
in the last year and a half on all of the earnings calls for the public companies, for the big brands, you've seen those franchising numbers or expansion numbers so much more outside of North America.
And the growth of the third-party players across Europe has been absolutely.
For sure. Well, and it's beyond Europe too. In Latin America, we see more consolidation of third-party management groups, companies buying others and brands buying other brands to kind of bring all of that under one umbrella in order to apply some sophistication in terms of third-party management and services, operation services. So
Brian's moving into the all-inclusive space more, especially in the CALA region.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of opportunity.
So we'll give Terry the A+ there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for the predictions that we had. Any final thoughts, guys?
We did pretty well.
Not too bad.
Yeah, it did all right.
Notwithstanding a giant global disruption.
Right?
I will say that I will take credit for being the most wrong. But there's caveats.
That just means room for growth.
Yeah.
But yes, would you both agree?
Yeah, no, it was pretty
hit
good.
A pandemic 2 months after we
that's the thing.
published this, and we still did pretty well.
Yep.
That's the thing. Nobody could have really predicted this of what we had to deal with. But I think that there was a lot of insightful stuff.
Were in place among these companies before then, may have hit some roadblocks, but they picked them back up.
Yeah. Before we go, any predictions you want to make for the industry?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that.
Do you want to make a 2025 prediction for 2025, or do you want to make a 2030 prediction? Do you want
2030?
Do you want to think about what 2030 is going to be like?
I've got a guess for the place. I'm not going to make as wild of a swing as I did last time.
Is this 2030 that you're guessing?
But no, what I'm saying is I think the place that I would like to be if I was an investor in
Mars?
the hotel industry over the next 5 years would be kind of a high-end player with a one-off brand platform that you're building up to some. If you can exist in that space and if you can thrive in that space, everybody is going to want to pay you so much money for your business and take it off your hands, and then you can just build another one and sell it again. That seems like that's where, I mean, if you can build the next Standard International over
or
the next
Four
5
Seasons.
Years, well, I think that's another tier we're talking about with Four Seasons. But if you can build that sort of platform right now, every brand company is going to be tripping over themselves to buy your company off of you. So that's the space to be over the next 5 years.
Okay, that's tough.
It is. Well,
to build from
high-end experience,
whole cloth, right?
Brand, yeah.
Which how many in our 10 years of, doing this have we seen brands that try to jump into
but
that
we also
and say
see
we've
there's
grown?
quite a few reasonably sized players out there
That are doing
who
it.
are doing that. Yeah. I mean, there's the Capellas of the world out
Pendry.
there. See, these companies are not a dime a dozen, but they're also not unicorns, right? So if you have the experience,
Dare we say?
if you have the capital backing you, I think that's the place to be in the hotel industry.
That's good. I was going to suggest or predict, I guess, the continuation of this hybrid model of hospitality and residential and rental.
Which is something that works in the exact space that I was
That works in
describing.
the space where Sean's talking about. So we may be, developing the ideal future hospitality
Someone we
community.
need capital backing on
But
this.
we've learned so much about the capital, about the financing benefits of these types of projects and the demand all over the world for these types of mixed use, like hybrid hospitality is the term that people call it now, which can be interpreted in different ways. But it's finding the brand, I guess, and then putting it in front of people for their travel, for their retail, for their living, and just day to day. So my prediction is a growth and sophistication of that type of hybrid hospitality development.
Mm-hmm. What's your prediction, Brian?
So we've talked about how brands are
Star Wars Hotel, you want to come back?
I mean, that'd be fun.
It's the prequel hotel.
Yeah, you get checked in by Jar Jar.
By Jar Jar.
And you find out the truth if he actually is the Sith Lord. But no, I'm thinking, with all the talk we've heard about brands moving away from management and really just embracing franchise and the growth for third party management, I think maybe by 2030. Let me know if this is too safe of a prediction, but I think we'll see at least one of the major brands fully remove itself from management of any of its properties. If they haven't already done that, they'll actually, like their marquee properties,
Right.
they may be like, we're out. We just want the franchise fee.
Time to cut the apron strings on the high-end luxuries that they like to keep.
I mean, the caveat there is obviously just like with asset light, you're going to keep a couple for very specific reasons. But yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Is
I
that
don't-
the caveat?
I don't know if I want to. Is putting the caveat in there being too safe?
No, I think that Marriott can call themselves asset light and still own a hotel next to their headquarters,
True.
right? Like that's just
You can give
I would-
them
that's the
fewer
exception
than
that proves the
3.
rule.
I want to give a very, very small exception there.
So more philosophically give up management control over, like I mentioned, some of them really, they won't do a certain, upper luxury brand that they don't manage or.
Yeah, even less than they do now.
Right.
All right. Well, we got to wrap it up here, folks. Thanks all of you for listening. I hope you had fun. It sounds like we had a lot of fun here too. So just stick with Hotel News Now for further coverage.
Thanks, Brian. See you in 5 years.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm co-stars Jan Freitag. And together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insights into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we also don't mind getting into some good-natured disagreement from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking data together, anything can happen. And it usually does.
Find us on hotelnewsnow.com and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Search for Hotel News Now, and thank you for listening.